Chapter 261, Getting an Audience with Shibuki. Inside Takidakure, Shibuki, the village leader, was walking up and down in his office agitatedly. Although he allowed Fu to participate in the Chunin exams, he regretted that decision every day. Damn it, I shouldn't have allowed her to go. What if something happened to her? Or maybe even more dangerous, what if she does something stupid? Our village is already significantly weaker than the 5 great villages. If we were to lose Fu on top of that, Taki might cease existing. Although I felt some pity for Fu, I should have just swallowed the bad feeling it gave me and forbid Fu from leaving the village. While he was contemplating his decision, an incredibly potent wave of chakra washed over the village, waking up Shibuki from his thoughts as his face paled. What incredibly powerful chakra! What in the world is going on? Shibuki was just about to leave his office to check out the situation when one of his jonin burst into the room with a pale face. Shibuka-sama, this is bad. We are under attack. Considering how intense the chakra pressure was, Shibuki already expected that to be the case, but previously there was still some hope in that that was not the case. Now, that hope got crushed. Damn it, tell me what is going on. Considering how strong the enemy's chakra feels, it must be quite the army. The jonin in front of Shibuki paled even further when he heard the comment about the big army. If it were a big army, he wouldn't have been that shocked by the sudden attack. The problem was, Shibuka-sama, it's not an army. It's a single person. Shibuki's eyes bulged when he heard that. Are you joking? This is the chakra of a single person. Are you certain? Yes, Shibuka-sama. There is no doubt about it. Damn it. Without waiting any longer, he left his office to see the situation for himself. If the enemy truly was just a single person, it was the worst-case scenario for Taki. The village's trump card, the Hero Water, could increase the chakra of a single person by tenfold for a limited amount of time. If it was against an army, one could drink it and rampage through the troops as they desire, but if it was used against an individual, the enemy could just retreat until the effect wore off, making it pretty much useless. Moments later, Shibuki reached the walls of Takidakure and looked at the invader. The person wore a black cloak with red clouds on it and a straw hat on their head. Although the straw hat hid away the invader's face, her silhouette was undoubtedly female. Just looking at the invader caused Shibuki's breath to hasten. What a presence! Is that really a human being? When Shibuki reached the wall, the invader started moving towards the walls of Takidakure with calm, measured steps. Every step she took seemed to crush the defender's confidence a little further, and Shibuki noticed that more and more of his shinobi was subconsciously backing away from the attacker. He had the same desire, but moments later, he gritted his teeth and raised his voice. People of Takidakure, do not falter. It's just one enemy. No matter how powerful, we can easily overwhelm her with numbers. This short speech managed to raise the morale to some degree at least, and moments later, the defenders made their first move. Those with affinities for wind and fire combined their jutsus to form a massive torrent of fire, while those of different affinities threw their kunai and shuriken to enhance the attack even further. The attack shot into the invader, resulting in a massive explosion and dumbfounding the Taki shinobi. They expected the other person to dodge or shoot a jutsu of their own, but the person took the attack head-on. Although most people were confused, some thought that the fight was already over and couldn't help but yell in excitement. That excitement died down relatively fast, however. A few seconds later, their enemy walked out of the dust cloud without a single scratch on her body. Shibuki gritted his teeth even harder when he saw that, but despite that, he couldn't allow the morale of his people to fall again, so he had to come up with an explanation for the current situation. She probably has some kind of technique that can absorb ninjutsu, switch to taijutsu. Yes. Without questioning his words, the shinobi around him pulled out their preferred weapon and charged at the enemy in front of them, while Shibuki prepared himself to drink hero water. Even if that person could absorb ninjutsu, there were plenty of weapons mixed in the attack as well, so the truth is undoubtedly something else. I'm pretty sure that most of my people must have noticed that as well but chose to ignore it. A few seconds later, the charging Taki shinobi reached the mysterious invader, resulting in a scene similar to a wave crashing against a mountain. The invader continued walking towards Takeda with steady steps, but now her hands were constantly moving at a speed that Shibuki could barely see. Every little hand movement resulted in one of his shinobi being flung away and knocked out. Seems like that insane amount of chakra isn't the only dangerous thing about her, huh? What incredible close combat prowess. Shibuki was just about to drink the hero water when he noticed something baffling. She hasn't killed a single person so far. What is going on? While Shibuki was contemplating on whether he should drink the water or not, he met the eyes of the attacker, and the moment he saw her piercing purple eyes, his whole body froze in place. Although he was confident that he was somehow trapped in a genjutsu, he couldn't move no matter what he did. Despite being incapable of moving his body, he still could see the whole battlefield in front of him, allowing him to witness the outcome of the battle. 5 minutes. That was all it took for the invader to defeat every single one of Taki's Jonin and Chunin without killing a single one of them, while the genin weren't here in the first place. Against an opponent this powerful, they couldn't even be considered cannon fodder since they would fade from the pressure alone. A moment later, the invading woman landed in front of Shibuki and removed her straw hat, revealing long red hair with blue strands, a beautiful face, and an amused smirk. Yo, you must be Shibuki, right? Since he could neither move nor talk, Shibuki couldn't answer that question, but the person in front of him didn't seem to care either way. The silent type, huh? Oh well, it's not like I don't know who you are already. Anyway, my name is Yuna, and I wanted to talk to you about something, so I decided to visit you. Although Shibuki still couldn't move, his whole face started twitching in irritation when he realized that his shinobi were wiped out simply because the person in front of him wanted to chat. Ha ha ha, no need to be shy. I know that I'm a great beauty, but there is no need to get so flustered that you are incapable of speaking because of that. Oh, well, let's change locations for now. While the twitching of Shibuki's face became even more potent, Yuna grabbed his shoulder and teleported away. Chapter 262, Talking with Shibuki. Over the course of the last few days, Fu has been staying inside the Uzumaki compound and managed to make quite a few new friends. Unlike in Takeda, where people were shunning her due to having Chomai sealed inside her, her outgoing and friendly personality made it very easy for her to make new friends, especially inside the Uzumaki compound. Fu was currently sitting inside the living room of the Uzumaki's clan's headquarters and was accompanied by Hinata and Enko. After Hinata realized just how innocent Fu was, she no longer had any doubts about befriending her, while Enko simply followed after Hinata. Hinata and Enko were currently drinking some tea Karen served them a short while ago, while Fu was stuffing her face with some cake she received from Yuna. On a side note, Hinata and Enko almost had a stroke when Yuna actually handed over the cake normally instead of shooting it in someone's face at high speed. Although Yuna wanted to complain that she didn't always serve her cake like that, but after thinking about it more deeply, she decided she would rather not start an argument she couldn't win. A few minutes later, someone knocked on the door, and moments later, it was opened, revealing Yuna, who had a leisurely smile on her face. Yo, I'm back. Did you miss me? While Enko only chuckled a little, Hinata couldn't help but roll her eyes at Yuna's question. You were only away for 30 minutes. So Tilda, you did miss me. Hinata couldn't help but laugh a little when she heard Yuna's teasing question. Yes, we naturally missed you over the course of the last 30 minutes, Yuna. I see, in that case, I guess I have to pamper you lots tonight to compensate you for your grievances. Although Hinata started blushing when she heard Yuna's suggestion, she nonetheless nodded her head in acknowledgement. Meanwhile, Fu just finished the last piece of cake and only now noticed that Yuna had entered the room. A huge smile appeared on her face as she immediately greeted Yuna. Yuna. Welcome back. Where were you again? Oh, the cake was delicious, by the way. What have you been doing? Before Fu could pile up any more questions on Yuna, she noticed something rather peculiar. Yuna was currently carrying a person who seemed to be somewhat familiar under her right arm. Hinata and Anka naturally noticed that as well but decided not to question Yuna about it. After all, the worst-case scenario was that she only kidnapped someone, which was no big deal for Yuna. They had enough confidence in Yuna's skill to know that there were either no witnesses or that she framed someone else for the kidnapping. A short while later, Fu's eyes widened in surprise as she realized who Yuna was currently holding. Is that Shibuki? Correct. You said you wanted to have a chat with him, so I decided to bring him over. As soon as Yuna finished speaking, she set Shibuki on one of the nearby couches and removed the seal that was stopping him from moving. She sneaked it on him by having one of her chains sneak up on him by tunneling through the ground and trapping him in a small genjutsu just before applying the seal to make it look like he was trapped just by meeting Yuna's gaze. The moment Shibuki regained control over his body, his first instinct was to draw out a weapon, but after giving the people in the room a slight glance, he realized that that wasn't a good idea. Damn it, what kind of monster den was I brought to? Although I can't be certain about it, I'm pretty sure that I'm currently the weakest person in the room, with a significant margin between the next person and me. And what the hell is Fu doing? Why is she so carefree? Was she tricked? So, instead of drawing a weapon, Shibuki simply decided to glare at Yuna and started speaking. Just to make sure there are no misunderstandings. You, someone who is clearly from Konoha and, if I am not wrong, is called Yuno Uzumaki, attacked Takeda, knocked out all the shinobi and kidnapped the village's leader, me, so that you could have a chat. You do realize that if information about that was disclosed to other nations, it could be seen as Konoha declaring war, right? When Yuna heard Shibuki's words, she couldn't help but chuckle a little while wagging her finger at him. What kind of nonsense are you spouting, Shibuki? The person who attacked your village wore a black cloak with red clouds on it. That is a clear sign that you were attacked by the organization called Akatsuki. Instead of making up outrageous claims about me attacking your village, shouldn't you thank me, who coincidentally happened to be in the vicinity when the attack happened, for saving your life from the member of Akatsuki? Hinata and Enko could only chuckle at Yuna's words, and Fu looked at the current situation in confusion while Shibuki's chin hit the floor so hard that it almost tunneled down into the lower floor. Why what? While Shibuki was trying to form a complete sentence after hearing Yuna's slightly modified story of what happened in Takeda, Fu managed to piece together what happened as a frown appeared on her face. That is not very nice of you, Shibuki. Yuna saved your life, but instead of being grateful for it, you are trying to blame her for something that had nothing to do with her. While Shibuki's head snapped towards Fu so he could look at her in disbelief, Yuna gave Fu's words an approving nod. Well said, Fu. I'm reducing your head pat ban from 2 weeks to 1 week. Fu's eyes immediately started shining in delight when she heard Yuna reducing her punishment. Without a moment of hesitation, she stood up and started running around the room in excitement. Yes. Only a few more days and the head pats will be back. While Fu was excitedly jumping through the room, Yuna's facial expression became serious as her gaze landed on Shibuki. Well, let's start talking about the crucial things, Shibuki. This might surprise you, but I wasn't near the village of Takeda by coincidence. I actually wanted to speak with you about something important. Although Shibuki noticed that Yuna seemed to have decided to act like Taki was really attacked by Akatsuki instead of Yuna herself, he decided to no longer bother with that matter. Although he dislikes it with every fiber of his being, the person in front of him knocked out his whole village's military force by herself, so Shibuki had basically no choice but to nod his head at everything Yuna said. Additionally, Fu seemed to genuinely like the people present, so he had at least some confidence that Yuna wasn't planning to do anything terrible to Takeda. Fu might not like the village much, but Shibuki didn't think that she would be fine with its people getting hurt, considering Fu's personality. Chapter 263, A Little Demonstration. Shibuki took a deep breath to calm down his irritation before he continued to glare at Yuna. Say it already, what do you want from me? Well, to put it bluntly, Fu is going to live inside the Uzumaki compound from now on. When Shibuki heard Yuna's words, his mouth opened wide in surprise while looking at Yuna in disbelief. It took him a short moment to regain his wits, and when he did, rage covered his face and he slammed his hands on the table in front of him. Absolutely not. There is no way I'm allowing that. Yuna couldn't help but chuckle when she heard Shibuki's words. Hee, I wonder what part of my sentence made you think that that was a request. Fu will be living in the Uzumaki compound from now on, there is no way around it. Do you think you can grab another village's Jinchuriki without any consequences? Yes. Shibuki groaned in irritation when Yuna answered his question without a moment of hesitation, while the muffled laughter from Hinata and Enko didn't exactly improve his mood either. Before he could state any further complaints, Yuna lifted her hands in a pacifying manner. Well, calm down for now. It's not like I made my claim without any reason. The organization called Akatsuki, which actually exists and consists only of S-rank shinobi, is hunting down Jinchuriki for their own cause. In fact, Fu was attacked by two of them on her way back from the Chunin exam. Although Shibuki wasn't sure that he could believe that an organization like that actually existed, after glancing at Fu and receiving a nod of confirmation from her, Yuna's story became at least a little more believable. Well, considering it is Fu who confirmed Yuna's story, the chance that she simply tricked her is still pretty high. Okay, so there is a group of strong maniacs that hunt down people like Fu, but why do you want to? Even before Shibuki finished speaking, he realized why Yuna didn't want Fu to stay in Takeda. You already guessed it, huh? You are correct, Takeda is too weak to protect Fu. If it were about an hour ago, Shibuki would have vehemently denied Yuna's statement, but considering Yuna took out his whole village by herself without killing a single person, he had no grounds to argue on. He knew that Yuna was a recently acknowledged S-rank shinobi, so Shibuki didn't believe that she was the only one capable of doing what she did. If another S-rank shinobi were to attack the village, it was unlikely that he would be like Yuna, who only knocked his people out. It would be a full-blown massacre. Shibuki could only grit his teeth and swallow Yuna's claim with indignation. When Yuna saw that, she nodded in approval. Shibuki might just be the leader of a small village, but he certainly wasn't stupid. No need to fret, Shibuki. I am not unreasonable enough to take something from your village without giving you any form of compensation. Shibuki had some trouble believing that, and considering that Hinata and Enko were looking at Yuna with disbelief clearly written on their faces, his doubts were somewhat confirmed. Yuna noticed that the trio was looking at her in disbelief and could only cough awkwardly. **** Anyway, Fu served as some form of a deterrent that prevented other villagers from attacking you, and I am willing to install a sealing formation around your village that serves the same purpose. Shibuki couldn't help but get slightly interested when he heard Yuna's words. As a village leader, he naturally had heard about the Uzumaki clan's ridiculously powerful seals. Since there was no way Yuna would allow Fu to continue living inside Takeda, receiving a powerful seal to defend the village was a good alternative. He took a deep breath before he resumed speaking. Although I am aware that I am not in a position to negotiate, I would like to see the seal in action at least. Yuna shrugged her shoulders and motioned the people in the room to follow her. A few minutes of walking later, they reached an empty training ground, and with a snap of Yuna's finger, a translucent barrier rose a few hundred meters away from them. This barrier is pretty much the same as the one that will be covering your village after I set up the seals. Well, I will obviously set up a few things to make it easier to use. There is no point in a permanent barrier around your village that no one can enter or exit, after all. Instead of answering, Shibuki only absent-mindedly nodded his head while observing the barrier. Yuna, naturally, knew what he was thinking about. The most important thing about that kind of barrier will always be its capabilities to block incoming attacks, so Shibuki was definitely pondering about how he could test that out. You probably want to test it out by attacking it with a few jutsu, but I have a much better test in mind. Fu, how about you show off a Bijudama to Shibuki? I'm sure he will be proud of you when he sees how strong you have become. While Shibuki and Fu were confused when Yuna mentioned a technique that neither of them had ever heard about, Hinata and Enko couldn't help but slightly look forward to what kind of reaction Shibuki would have after seeing Fu use that kind of attack. Although Fu really wanted to show off in front of Shibuki, the problem was that she had no idea what kind of technique Yuna was talking about. She was just about to ask her what she meant when Chomai started speaking to her. Ah, so that's what you meant, Yuna. Well, I guess I have to give up control for a moment, but that shouldn't be a problem. Before Shibuki could ask what Fu was talking about, red chakra started bubbling out of her, and a moment later, her whole body was covered in a four-tailed chakra cloak, causing Shibuki to panic. He immediately realized that this wasn't Fu's own chakra, but the chakra of the being sealed inside of her. He had no idea why Fu suddenly lost control, but considering how oppressive her chakra felt, he was under no illusion that he could stop her either. He probably would have run away if it wasn't for Yuna, Hinata, and Enko watching the scene in front of him with calm facial expressions. A moment later, Fu got into a prone position and opened her mouth, a gesture that was mimicked by the chakra that was surrounding her. Lucky 7 Chomai is here to show off. Massive amounts of chakra started gathering in front of Fu's mouth and continued to endlessly condense itself before a pure black sphere of condensed chakra was formed. Shibuki could only tremble in fear when he saw the sphere of condensed death hovering in front of Fu. That was no longer a jutsu used against another shinobi, it was used to wipe out an army or a city. Bijudama. The sphere flew towards the barrier, and the moment the two collided, an earth-shaking explosion took place as massive amounts of earth and stone were displaced, covering vast parts of the training ground with deadly projectiles. Despite the power behind the attack, the barrier only shook a little before returning to normal, showing Shibuki precisely what kind of treasure he would receive. Moments later, Fu returned to her standard form while stars of amazement sparkled in her eyes. Ha ha ha, did you see that, Shibuki? Wasn't that awesome? Although his facial expression was a little stiff, he still managed to squeeze out a few praises for Fu's performance, and moments later, Fu started climbing all around the training ground in happiness. While Shibuki was still thinking about what he just witnessed, Yuna started speaking. I assume you get it now, Shibuki. This is the kind of power you were protecting. Tell me, do you think you have what it takes to possess that kind of power? Instead of answering, Shibuki could only shake his head with a wry smile on his face. He heard that Jinchuriki were powerful, but he never expected them to be this ridiculous. Yuna nodded her head in approval and proceeded to leave the room with Hinata and Enko in tow. I told Fu that she could spend some time chatting with you, so have fun. Shibuki nodded again and started to approach the still frolicking Fu with a wry smile on his face. The moment the trio left the training grounds and they got some privacy, Enko's arm snaked around Yuna's neck and put a kunai on her throat, while a thin blade, held by Hinata, pricked Yuna's back where her heart was. Who are you, and what have you done with my Yuna? Chapter 264, Suspicious Behavior. Who are you, and what have you done with my Yuna? Yuna could only chuckle in amusement when she heard Hinata and Enko's question. Well, that's just unreasonable. I haven't done anything with her because I am her. Hinata and Enko only snorted in disdain when they heard Yuna's claim, and moments later, Hinata started talking with a dismissive-sounding voice. Nonsense, you serving cake normally was already pretty suspicious, but compensating Shibuki for something you have already taken is on an entirely different level of suspicion. Geez, you two have quite the negative image of me, huh? Can't I simply do something nice for someone without thinking about my own benefits? When the duo heard Yuna's question, they rolled their eyes and answered Yuna simultaneously. Only if it is to seduce a woman. Okay, fair enough. Honestly, Yuna was slightly interested in how serious Hinata and Enko were with this, but she decided to humor them for now. Fine, I just didn't want to take the innocent fool with stuff like blackmail and coercion. Before Yuna could get another word in, Enko snorted in disdain and started speaking instead. Bullshit. Do you think we have forgotten what kind of person you turn Naruto into? Okay, first of all, that was rather rude to Naruto, and I didn't plan for him to turn out like that either. It just kinda happened. Yuna couldn't help but chuckle when she noticed Hinata and Enko both rolling their eyes at her statement, and after a short moment of contemplation, Yuna simply shrugged her shoulders and decided to give the duo the real explanation. Fine then. Guess I'll just explain my intentions behind my actions. First of all, me serving the cake normally and giving Shibuki compensation were for two different reasons. Honestly, the reason for serving the cake normally is a little awkward, but since you want to know it so much, I'm willing to tell you. Although Hinata and Enko were, to some degree, messing around up until now, after hearing Yuna's words, they became genuinely suspicious. When Yuna said that the reason for serving the cake like that was a little awkward, it almost sounded like Yuna was a little ashamed of it, which immediately increased the duo's caution to the max. Well, as you two should know by now, I am studying the Tao of cake, so I have been using cake in all kinds of manners. I attacked, I distracted, and I sealed with them. I used cake in all kinds of manner, and the more I did, the more my proficiency rose. Although most people would only look at Yuna blankly when they heard her explanation, Hinata and Enko more or less knew what she was talking about, so they only nodded their heads in acknowledgement and allowed Yuna to continue her explanation. Recently, however, I noticed that I arrived at a bottleneck, and my improvements came to a drastic halt. Wait a moment. Is that why you pulled that stunt with pain? Haha, correct. Although it was rather fun to do, it didn't really help my Tao much. After thinking about it for a while, I finally realized the problem. I forgot about the basics, the foundation. At the very core of the matter, cakes are made to be served to people. How can I claim that I am aiming for the pinnacle of the Tao of cakes when I haven't even tried out its most basic aspect, serving the cake to a person who will then eat it? What a blunder! Hinata and Enko's eyebrows twitched in irritation when they heard Yuna's nonsensical explanation. If it were any other person who tried to sell them such a ridiculous story, they wouldn't believe it for even a second, but the person telling the story was Yuna, which made it more believable and, at the same time, even less believable. Instead of being bothered by it, Hinata and Enko decided to simply ignore what they just heard and instead focus on something else. Fine, whatever. I guess that doesn't matter anyway, since the more important point of suspicion is you giving Shibuki that defensive seal as compensation. What are you planning to do with that? Yuna could only roll her eyes when she heard Hinata's next question. Seriously, if you are so curious about what my plans are, then you should just ask, instead of interrogating me like this. Now I will have to punish you after this matter is over. While Enko only chuckled a little when she heard Yuna's words, a light blush appeared on Hinata's face. Hee, or maybe that is why you did it like that. Considering Hinata's preferences, I wouldn't be surprised about that. Hinata blushed even harder when she heard Yuna's words and lowered her head in shame. Anyway, the reason why I want to give that seal to Shibuki is actually pretty simple. Do you two know anything about hero water? After pondering the term for a moment, Hinata and Enko both shook their heads in denial. It is something that is only produced in Takeda. Or, to be more precise, it is produced by the giant tree that is towering over the village. From what I have heard, the person who drinks it will have their chakra temporarily increased by about 10 times but will lose some of their lifespan as a drawback. Hinata and Enko widened their eyes in surprise when they heard that. If the effect was really like that, it would be an incredibly powerful tool for people like them, who were constantly increasing their lifespan by cultivating. Anyway, that is only what I heard about it, and I very much doubt it would have that kind of effect on people like me, who already have obscene amounts of chakra, but I'm still somewhat curious about it. I could just borrow a little bit of it, but I would rather understand how it is created. The barrier I will install in Taki will have all kinds of hidden features that will help me analyze the creation process of the hero water and might even allow me to create it myself. Hinata and Enko's eyes shone in understanding. Having something like that as a trump card could be incredibly useful, after all, and it might even save their lives if they get into a sticky situation one day. So, that was the reason why I acted like that. Do you believe that I am the real me now, or would you like me to give you some more proof? For example, we could go to my room, and I could show you that I know all your sensitive spots, hee. Yet again, a light blush appeared on Hinata's face, but a moment later, determination appeared on her face as she looked Yuna in the eyes. I still don't believe that it is the real you, so I will take your offer. The more Hinata spoke, the redder her face became, and when she finished speaking, smoke was almost coming out of her ears. Although Yuna was slightly surprised by Hinata's proactive attitude, she would naturally not complain about it. Before Yuna could say anything about it, though, Enko started speaking as well. I agree with what Hinata just said. I'm also not convinced that you are the real you, so I'm coming with you as well. Now that I think about it, Hinata has been acting rather suspicious as well, so I guess I need to give her a very close inspection, too. The trio walked towards Yuna's bedroom without saying anything else while Fu and Shibuki were chatting about what happened during the Chunin exam and how her life in the Uzumaki compound was so far. Chapter 265, Casually Breaking Shibuki's Mind. While Yuna, Hinata, and Enko were talking with each other, Shibuki and Fu spoke about what happened during the Chunin exams. Well, Fu was speaking, while Shibuki was trying his best not to die of a heart attack due to Fu's story. When the very first sentence of Fu's story entails how she became friends with someone who wiped out his village's whole military force a short while ago, Shibuki knew he was in for a rather exciting ride. Anyway, after Fu finished telling the story of how she thought it would be a good idea to befriend Yuna after witnessing her almost sodomizing one of the participants, she started telling Shibuki about the first exam, which wasn't too interesting for Shibuki. Or that was at least what he thought. By the way, Shibuki. Near the end of the first exam, one of the female proctors moaned while talking into the microphone. I believe she said, "It's so big, Shikamaru." What did she mean by that? What was big? Luckily, Shibuki wasn't drinking anything right now, otherwise, he would have done a splendid spit take. Damn, what are the people of Konoha thinking? Have they no moral code? Are all of them perverts or something like that? Don't worry about that, Fu. Oh, right. That Shikamaru guy made the proctor some food, and she just got surprised by how big of a sandwich he made her. Fu's eyes shone in understanding when she heard Shibuki's words while she couldn't help but draw a little. I really wouldn't mind eating a huge sandwich right now. I wonder if Yuna could help me with that. Shibuki got slightly dazed when he heard Fu's words as a few rather dangerous pictures popped up in his head. He quickly shook his head to get rid of the unhealthy images before he resumed speaking. Forget about the sandwiches for now. What happened after that? So, Fu continued her story, and the more she talked, the paler Shibuki's face got. What has this girl done while I wasn't looking? Befriending Yuna is already dangerous enough, but it seems like she wasn't satisfied with that at all. How in the world did she manage to befriend that psychopath Gaara? Oh? Gaara. I'm not sure what you are so worried about, Shibuki, but Gaara was a really nice person, and he happily agreed to become my friend. Right, that was a stupid question. I mean, he is only known to be a crazy psychopath who started killing people in his village when he was just a little child, so who wouldn't want to become friends with him? damn it, I knew I messed up educating Fu, but I never thought it would be that bad. While Shibuki was constantly cursing Fu's naive attitude and his own failure of not teaching Fu proper common sense, Fu continued her story until it reached a certain point that finally caused Shibuki to snap. What do you mean you befriended the Kyuubi? Are you insane? Fu, however, only tilted her head in confusion when she heard what Shibuki was yelling at her about. What's wrong, Shibuki? Kurama is a really nice person, Fox, okay? Ah. I forgot that his name is a secret, so please ignore that I called Kurama, Kurama. Shibuki could only absent-mindedly nod his head when he heard Fu's commentary. Befriending the host of the bijou is one thing, but who would think about befriending the bijou itself? Shibuki couldn't even begin to understand how that was possible. From what he knew about the bijou, they were mindless beasts that only sought after distraction, but that notion seemed to be completely wrong. Not only has Fu managed to befriend one of them, but Yuna also seemed to have been friends with the Kyuubi for a long time now. Since he felt like his brain would overheat at any moment, Shibuki motioned for Fu to continue her story, which, in the aftermath, was a huge mistake. As Fu's story continued, she told Shibuki about how she met with the Ichibi and how she tried to befriend him forcefully, followed by Gaara, who wanted to do the same. Honestly, Shibuki couldn't help but feel some pity for Gaara's plight. When Fu first met him, Shibuki thought of him as a psychopathic killer, but now Shibuki realized that he was simply one of the victims of Yuna and Fu's antics. Although Shibuki wasn't present when Gaara declared his friendship with the Ichibi, he was sure that it was accompanied by the sound of Gaara's last strands of sanity shattering to pieces. Fu continued her story, and it was finally time for her to meet the Nanabi. Shibuki expected another weird conversation, where Fu one-sidedly forced her friendship on it, but the Nanabi, Chomai, somehow agreed instantly, resulting in Shibuki staggering backward while holding his head in pain. What is even going on? Is it really that easy to befriend the bijou? Wait a moment, I just remembered something rather important. Gulp Fu, just before you shot your jutsu into Yuna's barrier, I feel like your voice changed, was that it? Before Shibuki could finish his sentence, a wide grin appeared on Fu's face. That's right, that was my friend Chomai. I have never used that jutsu, so she took control of my body and used it for me. I see. That was the final breaking point for Shibuki. Befriending people in important positions. That was actually something good for Taki. Befriending Jinchuriki. That was somewhat dangerous but still reasonably fine. Befriending the bijou themselves. Pretty ridiculous. Allowing one of the bijou to control your body. Absolutely outrageous and incomprehensible. So, Shibuki took the only option he had left to prevent his mind from shattering into a million pieces. Well, that is really amazing. His mind shut down, and he proceeded to praise Fu's action with a monotone voice, resulting in a huge smile appearing on Fu's face anyway. Haha, thanks, I know that was pretty awesome. For a split second, one of Shibuki's eyebrows twitched in irritation, but he quickly suppressed it and decided to get out of here as fast as he could. Well, it is getting pretty late, so I guess I should be returning to Takeda now. Although Fu was slightly disappointed that Shibuki had to leave, she nonetheless nodded her head in acknowledgement. After leaving the training ground, Fu took out a token she received from Yuna and injecting some chakra into it, which should send a signal to Yuna. Instead of Yuna, however, Naruto, with Ino and Haku in tow, approached the duo. Although Fu expected Yuna to appear, when she saw Naruto with his two girlfriends approaching, she nonetheless had a broad smile on her face. As fellow Jinchuriki and people with similar personalities, Naruto and Fu became friends rather quickly, which led to Ino and Haku befriending Fu as well. As soon as the trio was in speaking range, Naruto started talking. Sorry, but Nei-san is currently busy, so I will be the one to teleport you back to Taki. Shibuki was already numb due to everything he had heard so far, so he wasn't even bothered about someone else being able to casually teleport into his village anymore and simply nodded his head in agreement. Moments later, Naruto grabbed his shoulder and disappeared, just to reappear a few seconds later. A small smile appeared on his face as he gave Fu a slight nod that was supposed to mean that he was leaving again, but Fu still had something else to say. "Naruto, I am really craving a huge sandwich right now, can you help me with that?" The moment Fu finished speaking, Naruto's face paled, and he immediately jumped away from Fu while lifting his arms in a pacifying manner. "I have no idea what this is about, and I blame everything that just happened on Nei-san." While Fu tilted her head in confusion at Naruto's explosive reaction, Ino and Haku couldn't help but chuckle a little. Although they couldn't be sure whether Yuna was the culprit for that innuendo or not, the chances were rather high that that was the case. Chapter 266, Forging an Alliance. Eerie laughter echoed through the halls of one of the many hidden bases inside the Land of Sound. "Kukuku, finally. I finally can use my hands again. You will pay for what you did to me, Uzumaki." The person who spoke these words was Orochimaru, who finally managed to remove Yuna's ice from his arms after multiple years of effort. Moments later, Sasuke appeared next to him, and when he saw that Orochimaru could use his hands again, he sighed in relief. "It seems like you can finally use your hands again. When will you remove the modifications Yuna did to my seal?" Orochimaru couldn't help but choke on his own laughter when he heard Sasuke's question. He was so focused on removing the ice that he totally forgot about the changes Yuna made on Sasuke's seal. Despite that, he quickly gathered his bearing and nodded at Sasuke with a confident expression. "For now, give me a few days to get used to moving my hands again, and then I will take a look. It will be too risky to remove the modifications without adequately analyzing the seal first, which will also take some time. Who knows what kind of hidden traps that girl built into it?" Although Sasuke wasn't entirely satisfied with that answer, he knew that there was nothing he could do about it. He had basically no knowledge about seals, but what he knew was that carelessly adding or removing parts would usually cause an explosion. So, without saying another word, he nodded his head and walked away, causing Orochimaru to frown. "He's as arrogant as always. If it weren't for Yuna's damn seal, I would have taken possession of his body a long time ago. Should I just pluck out his eyes and use Hashirama's cells to increase my control over the Sharingan as Danzo did? No, only the body of an Uchiha can display the Sharingan's true might. I'm not willing to compromise on that, so I have to either get my hands on the body of another Uchiha or unravel that damn seal Yuna slapped on Sasuke." While Orochimaru was grumbling about his future plans, space in front of him started twisting, which caused Orochimaru's eyes to widen in shock as he jumped back and pulled out the sword of Kusanagi. A moment later, a man wearing a black robe with red clouds and an orange mask with a single eye hole appeared in front of Orochimaru. "Finding you is quite the chore, Orochimaru." Orochimaru squinted his eyes when he saw a member of Akatsuki that he didn't know about appearing in front of him. Although he couldn't feel any hostile intention from the man before him, he nonetheless prepared himself for combat. "That's how I like it to be, but it seems that didn't stop you from finding me anyway. Has Akatsuki finally sent someone to get rid of me after I betrayed you? Usually, that would be the consequence of betrayal, but I believe the better choice would be to mend the relationship between you and Akatsuki and face a common enemy instead." Orochimaru squinted his eyes when he heard the masked person's words. His ability to gather information has been drastically reduced after losing Kabuto and the Sound 4, so he had no idea who that potential common enemy could be. In fact, except for Uzumaki, there were very few people he truly considered to be his enemy. "Who exactly are you talking about?" "Right now, there is only a single person I would be willing to forge an alliance against." The face behind the mask twisted into a grin when the masked man heard Orochimaru's words. "It's Uzumaki, isn't it?" Orochimaru's eyes widened in surprise when he heard that question before his face twisted in glee. That's right. As long as our target is her, I'm willing to become your ally. Good, I heard that you could use the Edo Tensei. With my ability to freely travel through walls and other restrictions, I will be capable of collecting a lot of powerful people for you to use. No matter how abnormal she is, even she cannot beat an army of immortal, cage-level shinobi. Orochimaru nodded his head while his face twisted into a bizarre smile. Kukuka, I can't wait to see her face twist into despair when she faces a force she cannot beat. I might as well destroy Konoha while I am at it. Oh, I almost forgot about that. After she is dead, I want to have her corpse. The masked man tilted his head in confusion before shrugging his shoulders in indifference. Sure, as long as we get the Kyuubi, you can have the corpse. But I want you to teach me how to use the Edo Tensei and especially how to cancel it as well. Despite the additional condition, Orochimaru's eyes shone in excitement when he heard the man's words. The secret of how Yuna could use ice has been keeping him on his toes for a long time now, and now he finally got a chance to find out about it. Also, he had to reveal how the Edo Tensei worked. He wanted Yuna's body no matter what, so revealing information about the jutsu was a risk he was willing to take. Kukuko, I can't wait. After I'm done dissecting her body and analyzing her bloodline, I will have a much better understanding of how a new Kekkei Genkai is born. I might even be able to artificially create my own after analyzing Yuna's. I can't wait. While the masked man, Obada, and Orochimaru were becoming allies, Anko sat cross-legged deep inside the Uzumaki compound inside a vast hall that only very few people knew about. There was not a single speck of space on the ceiling, walls, or floor that was not adorned with massive amounts of minuscule seals, and the natural energy in the room was so thick that an average person would turn into stone just by breathing the air inside the room. Over the years, Yuna had significantly increased her repertoire of seals that interacted with natural energy. By now, she was capable of creating something similar to the cultivation chambers of a previous life, so she naturally installed a few of them to help the people she taught cultivation to increase their pace. Massive amounts of nature energy was currently swirling around Anko and was steadily being absorbed into her body. After a long time of staying like this, she opened her eyes and an elated expression appeared on her face. I finally did it. A massive grin appeared on Anko's face that seemed to split her face in half and resembled the grin of a certain shameless woman. Time for a snake hunt. Chapter 267, Breakthrough. The moment Anko yelled out those words, a small crimson snake slithered out of her right sleeve and gave her an accusing look, causing her to chuckle. Anko lifted her left hand and started patting the small snake with her index finger, resulting in it squinting its eyes in pleasure. Of course, I wasn't talking about you, Akane. My target is Orochimaru. The small snake, Akane, scoffed when she heard Orochimaru's name, resulting in a small flame shooting out of her nose. Ha ha ha, yes, I know you are really great and can easily beat him up for me. My little Akane is a strong girl after all. Akane seemed to be satisfied with Anko's praise, and moments later, she returned to Anko's sleeve. Anko always liked to use snakes during battle, but she never dared to summon the smarter, more powerful ones, simply because she couldn't trust them. Anko might have signed the summoning contract just like Orochimaru did, but she had no doubts that most, if not all, of the stronger snakes were under Orochimaru's control. Summoning a creature that would give away information about you without a moment of hesitation was obviously not a good idea. Like it was the case most of the time, Yuna had a solution for Anko's problem. In Yuna's previous life, there were people who cultivated together with a beast of their choice. Although that method would decrease the cultivation speed a little, it had the advantage of always having a powerful companion that could help you out during fights. Akane started out as a regular snake, but after cultivating with Anko for a while, her scales became crimson, her body became stronger, and she gained a high affinity to fire while becoming significantly more intelligent. Anko happily stretched her body, and moments later, she closed her eyes and attempted to get a feel for her surroundings. Unlike before her breakthrough just now, she could easily sense everything around her that was within a radius of about 50 meters. So this is the spirit sense Yuna claimed I would get after forming a core. With this, it should be pretty much impossible for Orochimaru to get away from me. This time, he won't be getting away. This time, Anko scanned her own body, and she couldn't help but smile when her senses washed over the dense ball of natural energy that was sitting close to her chakra center. Time to find Yuna so that she can teleport me to Orochimaru. Well, to Sasuke, but that doesn't really matter. Anko used her newly acquired spirit sense again, but this time instead of attempting to sense everything around her, she sent it into a specific direction, which increased the range significantly. After a short while of searching, she found Yuna, and as soon as she did, Yuna's head snapped towards Anko's current position. After a brief moment of pondering, Yuna smiled, disappeared from her current position, and appeared next to Anko. Congratulations on your breakthrough, Anko. Before Anko could say anything, Yuna hugged her and gave her a kiss, which Anko quickly reciprocated. Hee, no big deal. Now let's go kill Orochimaru already, I have waited long enough. Yuna, however, wagged her finger at Anko. I don't think so. There is no way I'm allowing you to fight him in your current condition. What do you mean by that? My condition is perfect. A smirk appeared on Yuna's face that immediately made Anko take a step back. Claiming that my condition is perfect might have been a mistake. Oh? So your condition is perfect, huh? You really are a genius, Anko. You acquired its spirit sense only a few minutes ago and can already control it perfectly, huh? I might have said a little too much, ha. That just slipped out by accident. No, it's okay, Anko. Since you already mastered it, I'm sure the exercise I have prepared for you will be easy peasy for you. Before Anko could say anything else, the whole room froze over while dozens of ice projectiles formed in midair. Despite the temperature dropping significantly, sweat was flowing down Anko's back like a river. Can't we talk about this? Yuna's smirk became even bigger before she answered Anko's question. No. All the ice projectiles shot at Anko, who quickly jumped out of the way without a moment of hesitation. When she noticed that she dodged all the projectiles, a smug smile appeared on her face just to vanish again when a snowball hit the back of her head. Ha, stop slacking and use your spirit sense properly. The next hit won't be with a soft snowball. Anko gritted her teeth and prepared herself for the next barrage. Yuna easily pulling off a sneak attack despite Anko being supposed to sense everything around her, which made her realize that there was still some flaws she would have to fix before she could confront Orochimaru with the certainty that he wouldn't be able to get away. Anko dodged another onslaught just to have the back of her head hit by another, a little harder, snowball. Damn it, this is bullying. Stop whining, Hinata went through the same exercise after her breakthrough. But unlike Hinata, I don't enjoy getting bullied, ***. Damn it. Can't you make those projectiles a little softer? I could, yes. Then do it. The Tao is endless, only through hardship can we get a glimpse at its peak. Damn it, take your Tao nonsense and shove it up your damn it. Wait a moment. Wasn't that a contradiction just now? The Tao is very profound and cannot be understood by words alone. So it really was. After around a week of training, Yuna was finally satisfied with Anko's spirit sense proficiency, and it was time for their departure. A vicious smirk appeared on Anko's face when she realized that it was finally time to get her revenge. Although it didn't bother her that much anymore, she was still relatively happy that she could finally kill Orochimaru. Ha, I have been waiting for this moment for a long time now. Let's go, Yuna. Without further comments, Yuna gripped Anko's right shoulder, and moments later, both of them vanished. Chapter 268, A Disturbing Image. Inside a small room deep inside the land of sound, a naked woman with red skin and long black hair was writhing around on her bed while her hands were roaming all over her body and muffled moans occasionally escaped her mouth. Despite what the woman was currently doing, her mind was wandering in a completely different direction. That damn bitch, what did she do to my body? Why does this feel so good? Damn it, I can't stop. A few minutes later, 2 additional presences appeared inside the room, and as soon as the woman realized that she was no longer alone, her movements froze. KYAA. Smack asterisk. The woman was just about to start screaming when one of the new arrivals moved at lightning speed and slapped a paper tag on her forehead, causing her to lose consciousness instantly. An awkward silence covered the room before the second new arrival started chuckling. Well, that was undoubtedly a unique way to welcome us. Did you plan this somehow, Yuna? When Yuna heard that question, she couldn't help but chuckle as well. Hee, this might surprise you, Anko, but I didn't plan for this at all. In fact, I expected Sasuke's pride to be too high to even use the female form I forced onto him, and even if he were to use it, I expected him to do so in a life and death situation. Who the hell gave him the idea to masturbate while he is in that form? Anko squinted her eyes in doubt and looked at Yuna with disbelief clearly visible on her face. Somehow, I doubt that. When she heard Anko's words, Yuna lifted up her arms in defeat while a wry smile appeared on her face. Geez, not every interesting situation that happens occurs due to my machinations. Sometimes it's a simple coincidence. Although Anko clearly wasn't convinced yet, she decided to drop the matter and give the still transformed Sasuke a closer look instead. Damn, you really transformed him into a beauty. Yuna shrugged her shoulders in indifference when she heard Anko's outburst. Although that is true, the inside is still the same old Sasuke. Just because I covered a turd with something good-looking doesn't make it less of a turd. Ha ha ha, that's true, I guess. I mean, just look at him. How in the world does he manage to keep that scowl on his face despite being unconscious? Yuna nodded her head in agreement, but she made an incredibly sad-looking facial expression a short moment later while a despair-filled sigh escaped her mouth. Sigh no matter how I look at it, I have to do it, don't I? At first, Anko was confused by Yuna's sudden switch in mood, but after a short moment of pondering, a smirk appeared on Anko's face that was quickly replaced by a sad expression as well. Indeed, there is no other choice. Yuna swiped a non-existent tear out of her right eye, took off the paper tag she previously put on Sasuke's face and replaced it with another one. I would say that I'm sorry that I had to do that, but I'm not. Anko couldn't help but laugh out loud when she heard Yuna's words, but moments later, her attention was drawn back to Sasuke, who started struggling in his sleep. MHH. Just out of curiosity, what did you do with him? He looks like he is having a nightmare. Correct. Recently I had a breakthrough in mind-related seals, so I thought I might as well give them a test run. Anko nodded her head and watched the struggling Sasuke with curiosity. From the way he moved, it looked like he was attempting to get away from something. Just out of curiosity, what is he currently dreaming about? Or is it so bad that I probably would rather not know about it? Yuna coughed awkwardly before a sheepish grin appeared on her face. Cough hee, I think he would rather not know about it. There are a few things a mortal mind is not equipped to handle. Instead of losing interest in the matter after hearing Yuna's claim, Anko's eyes were brimming with curiosity as she eagerly waited for Yuna to continue. Anyway, let's go look for Rokaimori now. Yuna wanted to turn around and walk away, but before she could do so, Anko's hands landed on her shoulders. Come on, Yuna, you can't get me all hot and bothered and then just stop. Hee, pretty sure I already did that a few times. Although that is not wrong, I always came to a fulfilling ending in those situations. Okay, you win. Yuna turned around again, and when Anko saw the smirk on her face, she realized that Yuna was only playing hard to get instead of actually not wanting to tell her. As you probably have already found out, Sasuke is currently getting chased by someone inside his drain. Anko simply nodded her head when she heard the first part of Yuna's explanation. She had indeed already guessed that that was the case. Naturally, Sasuke is getting chased in his female form. Yet again, Anko simply nodded her head. As for the person who was chasing him, I thought Orochimaru would be a good candidate. Anko choked a little when she heard that before she started laughing out loud. A moment later, however, she stopped laughing since Yuna continued talking. And since I thought that wasn't enough, I changed Orochimaru's design a little. Seeing Yuna's eyes getting slightly distant, Anko felt like something outrageous was about to be said, so she braced herself for the impact. Guy's body tight, green, spandex suit, his thick eyebrows and the bowl cut. Anko visibly staggered backward when she heard Yuna's words, and moments later, an incredibly disturbing image appeared in her mind. Oh okay, I admit that is pretty disturbing, though. This, however, was when I truly became mad with power. Before Anko could finish speaking, Yuna's face became even more distant as her eyes seemed to lose focus completely. I made the suit tight, Anko. Why Yuna, see calm down. Very tight. Why Yuna? Like 2 sizes too small. There is nothing that cannot be seen, Anko. Yuna. When Yuna heard Anko yelling her name, she woke up from her trance and dazedly looked around the room. The moment she saw Anko, a gleam of determination flashed through her eyes, and she casually approached Anko and picked her up in a princess carry. Let's have sex. Huh? Now? You think you can face Orochimaru with the image I just created still fresh in your mind? Anko shuddered a little at the still fresh image before shrugging her shoulders. Oh well, might as well have a quickie to get the image out of our heads. It's not like we are in a hurry, after all. Yuna eagerly nodded her head before a large bed appeared in the middle of the room on which she placed Anko, and moments later, the duo started removing each other's clothes and proceeded to purge the cursed image in their heads with something more enjoyable. Chapter 269, Facing Orochimaru. A few hours later, Yuna and Anko left Sasuke's room with satisfied faces and a slight glow on their cheeks. Ding! You have fulfilled the special condition, have sex inside the base of an enemy you plan to take down while his boy toy is in the same room. You gained the title, Degeneracy Behind Enemy Lines. Geez, you are exaggerating, Kurama. It's just Orochimaru, why do you make it sound like we did something dangerous? It might not have been dangerous, but that doesn't mean that it was something a sane person would do. Well, Anko and I were the ones who did it, so you are pretty much correct. MHH, that's true, isn't it? Oh, well. While Yuna and Kurama were chatting, Anko swept Orochimaru's base with her spirit sense to determine Orochimaru's current position. This was actually the reason why Yuna and Anko waited so long with their attack on Orochimaru. He was ridiculously slippery, and Anko had no confidence in actually killing him without something to lock onto his position. If she had been satisfied with just defeating him alone and forcing him to run away, Anko would have looked for him much earlier. Moments later, a vicious grin appeared on Anko's face as she looked in a certain direction. Found you, Tilda? Without a moment of hesitation, the skin around her eyes turned red, while her eyes turned crimson. She pointed the index finger of her right hand at Orochimaru's current position while gathering massive amounts of natural energy and chakra at its tip. Flame Cultivation Arts, White Pillar. Hey. Why did you shorten the name? Anko ignored Yuna's complaint and focused her attention on the white pillar of highly concentrated flames that was currently piercing through Orochimaru's hideout like the whole thing was made out of cotton instead. She noticed that Orochimaru managed to dodge her attack but wasn't too bothered about it. She mainly used it to create a shortcut to his current location, after all. When Anko saw the power of the attack she just used, she couldn't help but smile. Before meeting Yuna, she couldn't even hope to achieve an attack of this level, but now she could casually use it as an opener. The skin around her eyes and her eyes themselves changed back to normal while a light chuckle escaped Anko. For now, she wanted to test out her current strength against Orochimaru without using Yuna's cultivation techniques. Are you listening, Anko? The correct name is Tao of Fire Cultivation Arts, Piercing White Pillar of Heavenly Flames. After giving Yuna a nod of acknowledgement despite barely listening to her words, Anko bent her knees and jumped through the pathway she just created. Considering she literally melted the path into the stone, the temperature inside of it was incredibly high, but as someone who had a high affinity to fire cultivation, she barely noticed it. Moments later, Yuna mimicked Anko's movements while still grumbling about using improper technique names. Unlike Anko, environments with a high heat level could probably be considered Yuna's weakness, but just a little bit of passive heat from an intense fire technique naturally doesn't bother her. When Anko arrived inside the same room Orochimaru was in, and she saw his current facial expression, which was twisted into shock and disbelief, she couldn't help but chuckle. Hee, what's wrong, Orochimaru? Surprised to see my new jutsu? When Orochimaru heard someone speaking to him, he got out of his daze, but when he noticed that Anko somehow appeared inside his hideout and that she just admitted to shooting the previous attack, he could only look at her in bewilderment. You shot that attack? That is impossible, you don't have what it takes to reach that level of power. I examined you multiple times over a long period of time while you were my student, and you simply do not have the potential to produce an attack like that. Before Anko could answer, Yuna landed next to her with a disdainful smirk on her face. Well, little snake, that is the difference between someone who thinks he knows how to teach someone how to become stronger and someone who actually does. However, Orochimaru barely heard Yuna's words because the moment she appeared next to Anko, hatred flooded his body, which was quickly replaced by a feeling of glee. Kukuka, to think you would dare to show yourself in front of me again, Yuna Uzumaki. Today you will pay for what happened the last time we met. Yuna looked at him weirdly before shaking her head in dismay. Every time I meet you again, you somehow make it sound like our previous encounter didn't end in you getting your ass kicked. I really wonder what kind of weird perception of the world you have. Well, I won't deny that our last encounter didn't go too well for me, but this time I have prepared proper countermeasures against you. Well, my preparations aren't 100% perfect yet, but it shouldn't be too much trouble to kill you with what I have prepared. Yuna could feel some excitement bubbling up when she heard Orochimaru's words, but before she could say anything else, Anko stepped forward with an annoyed expression on her face. Oi, I'm still here. Yuna is just here for transportation and will not participate in our one-on-one fight. I'm not here to see Yuna tear you a new one, I am here to do it myself. Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh when he heard Anko's words. You defeat me in a one-on-one? You sure have grown delusional over the last few years, Anko. I know what kind of potential you have, and you will never be my equal. Hee, big words, big words. During our encounter in the Forest of Death, I managed to cut your head off, but you managed to escape due to all the weird techniques, you know. This time, I will make sure that there is no next time. Orochimaru snorted in disdain before going through a few hand signs and slamming his right hand on the ground. I have no intentions of humoring your desire for a one-on-one. Frankly, I have no interest in you at all. Edo Tensei. Moments later, 3 coffins rose out of the ground, causing a massive grin to appear on Yuna's face. Seems like I will get the chance to have a little workout after all, Anko. I assume you have no desire to fight whoever comes out of those coffins, right? Anko only shrugged her shoulders in indifference before answering Yuna. Yeah, I couldn't care less. You can have them. Let's see how long Orochimaru is willing to ignore me after I set him aflame a few times. Kukuku, you still dare to act so cavalierly despite your death being this close. I am not sure if I should call your behavior courageous or plain stupid. Moments later, the 3 coffins fully emerged from the ground and the first one opened. The moment Anko saw the person in the first coffin, she was overcome with absolute helplessness. Chapter 270, The 3 Coffins. The first coffin opened and a middle-aged woman with long black hair, pure white skin, and black eyes stepped out of it. Just like with Hinata and Naruto, Unifork**** convinced Anko to read up on notable past and present figures, and the woman who Orochimaru just called is one of those figures. Seeing the helpless expression on Anko's face, Orochimaru couldn't help but chuckle in glee. Kukuko, it seems like you already know her, but let me introduce her anyway. Fuyuki. She was the last known matriarch of the Yuki clan and is known as the strongest ice-style user the clan had ever seen. If you don't know how to counter a jutsu, then just use the same with a higher output. Yes, that was precisely what Anko feared Orochimaru would think when he summoned her. She did not feel helpless about winning the fight against Orochimaru, but about her chances of actually fighting him. Although Yuna rarely showed it, she could be rather prideful, so there was a genuine chance that Yuna would get angry at Orochimaru for implying that a woman who died in her 40s could surpass her in the use of ice. Anko glanced at Yuna and sighed in relief when she only had an amused smile on her face. Fuyuki, meanwhile, had no clue what was going on. As far as she knew, she was dead, so it made very little sense to her to be in the land of the living again. Additionally, none of the people present looked like they were from her clan, but despite that, the widow behind her claimed that she was supposed to fight someone who could use ice style as well. Moments later, the second coffin opened and a huge man with dark skin, white hair, and a deep scar on his chest came out of it. What is the meaning of this? Unlike Fuyuki, he was never someone who bothered concealing his thoughts, so he immediately let everybody know that he was annoyed. Kukuko, welcome back in the world of the living third Reikage donor. Your incredible strength, speed, and invincible body will help me defeat the one who has been a thorn in my eyes for a while now. The third Reikage frowned when he heard Orochimaru's words and looked at the 2 enemies he was supposed to fight, and moments later, a disdainful sneer appeared on his face. What kind of pussy are you? You can't even defeat 2 tiny one. Before he could finish speaking, he met Yuna's eyes and chirped on his own words. She was currently looking at him like he was an incredibly delicious-looking piece of meat, so he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable when he met her eyes. The moment Yuna saw the third Reikage stepping out of the second coffin, she couldn't help but get excited. He was someone who could go toe-to-toe with the Hachibai, after all. Someone like that should be incredibly entertaining to fight against. The last coffin opened a short moment later, and a middle-aged woman gracefully stepped out of it. She had black eyes, long, bright red hair, and a hair bun on both sides of her head that each had a sealed tag hanging out of it and was radiating a royal aura. The moment Yuna saw the woman, she couldn't help but facepalm while Anko's mouth gaped open. Seriously, Orochimaru, what are you even doing? Fuyuki is a good choice from your point of view, I can understand that much. The third Reikage is an excellent choice, but what were you thinking when choosing the third person? Off the top of my head, I can't think of a single person who would have been a worse choice to use the Edo Tensei on. Kukuka, just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it is a bad choice. Although you already know her, let me introduce her anyway. This is Mido Senji. Asterisk smack asterisk asterisk boom asterisk. Before Orochimaru could finish the introduction, a chain burst out of the body of the third person he summoned, pierced him through his right shoulder, and pinned him to a wall. Did you just call me from the Pure Land by using the Edo Tensei that Tobirama Brat created? Do you really think that would work on an Uzumaki? While Anko and the other 2 summons looked at the current scene in bewilderment, Yuna could only sigh while shaking her head. The Uzumaki clan has a close connection with the Shinigami, so most of them have a strong resistance against stuff like the Edo Tensei. Additionally, the Uzumaki clan members have unparalleled talent in seals, and although the Edo Tensei doesn't exactly count as a seal, seals are certainly a part of it. So, summoning someone whose knowledge in seals is significantly higher than yours is a terrible idea, but instead of calling someone whose skill is considerably higher than yours, you called for someone whose skill is in a completely different dimension. Finally, to put the crown on your stupidity, you summoned Mido Senju, who was undoubtedly asked for advice in regards to the creation of the Edo Tensei by Tobirama. When Yuna finished her tirade, Anko and Fuyu's eyes showed understanding, while the third Reigake seemed to have stopped listening from the start. Well, he was known for his strong body and not his sharp mind, after all. On the other hand, Mido looked at Yuna with interest and started speaking to her with a calm and refined voice. You seem to be quite knowledgeable and an Uzumaki to boot. Could you tell me what happened to the Uzumaki clan after my death? On my deathbed, the only living member I knew about was Kushina. Kushina was my mother, but she died shortly after my birth. I re-established the Uzumaki clan a few years ago, and I'm pretty sure I managed to collect most of the family members that were scattered all over the elemental nation by now. We currently have around 200 people in total. Although Mido was relieved that the Uzumaki clan didn't become extinct, she couldn't help but look at Yuna in bewilderment when she heard her words. Although her calm aura was slipping away a little, it took her only a short time to regain it. You re-established it. You appear to be only around 15 years old. MHH. Oh yeah, did it when I was 13. No big deal. Anyway, since re-establishing it in the land of whirlpools was out of the question, I chose Konoha as our main base, and by now, we have become its strongest clan. Konoha. That was not a good choice. They pretended to be our allies, but when the situation became dangerous, they abandoned us without a moment of hesitation. Konoha cannot be trusted. Although Mido noticed that the Uzumaki clan's typical brashness slipped out a little when she finished speaking, there were more important matters than keeping one's dignity as an elder right now. When Yuna heard Mido's concerns, a face-splitting grin appeared on her face that sent chills through Mido's spine. Hee, do you think I'm an idiot? 3 people were responsible for preventing information about the attack against the Uzumaki clan from reaching Konoha in time. Danzo Shimoa and his root organization of about 80 shinobi, Homura Midokado, an elder of Konoha, and Koharu Udatain, another elder of Konoha. I killed Danzo and every single member of his organization a few months after I re-established the clan while managing to have him branded as a traitor as well. Although the 2 elders are still alive, they are currently imprisoned with a life sentence due to stealing funds, blackmail, and a few other things. Naturally, I'm the one responsible for that as well. While Enko only chuckled a little when she heard Yuna's story and Orochimaru was still attempting and failing to get rid of Mido's adamantine sealing chains, Fuyu and the third Reikage looked at her in complete bewilderment. After all, they simply couldn't imagine how a 13-year-old had the capabilities of uprooting multiple higher-ups inside a village all by herself. Mido Senju, however. Ha ha ha. Very good, you know. Finally, my Uzumaki clan got the revenge it deserved, you know. That will teach those high-strung bastards not to mess with us, you know. Well, in conclusion, the image of a dignified elder she tried to maintain was annihilated.